Hello, and welcome to the second episode of Spill the Key.
Yeah, hello, Zykvar here.
Today we got the Mythic Plus topic, and we'll just start off the topic by talking about our personal attitude towards Mythic Plus, and I think you can start with it if you want.
Yeah, I'll gladly do that. Yeah, in the first section we just want to talk about our attitude towards Mythic Plus. If we enjoy it, if yes, why we enjoy it, and if no, why we don't do that. As you probably gathered from watching our other videos, we definitely enjoy Mythic Plus. It's content that we do often, and yeah, most of the time we like to do it. It's not just because we have to grind something. And there are a lot of different reasons for that. One of them, for me, one of the biggest ones, is that it doesn't require such a organization struggle like a raid does, for example. I mean, I enjoy our raid nights as well, but they're only 2 times a week with our guild, and you need 20 people to coordinate that. And if you want to do Mythic Plus, all you have to do is open the looking for group tool and search for a random pack. I think that's yeah, a lot easier, and yeah, so that leads to us doing that definitely more often.
I mean, to be fair, depending on what spec you play, it might take a while as well.
Oh god, why did I... Oh, there's a witch spawning. I didn't see that at all. Yeah, definitely depends on what class you're playing. As you can see in this key, I'm playing Guardian Druid. That's not a great spec, but at least it's a tank spec, so people invited us. I think if I had played Feral again, we wouldn't have made it into a key just now.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah. Another reason I enjoy Mythic Plus, to get back to topic, is the challenge, definitely. It's a lot of fun to test out how high you can push keys, especially when you're pugging this, because you get a different group in each dungeon, and you can really see how consistent you are playing and how often other people are doing mistakes, and you can improve by watching other people. I think that's a really great thing.
Yeah, I think so too. And I also think it's a really good point that you can pretty much play whenever you want. So you're not bound to like raid times, for example, where you have to be there for like 4 hours on 2 days. You can just say, okay, today I want to play like 2 keys, and then you play your 2 keys, and then afterwards you say, okay, I'm done for today. I come back tomorrow. Or maybe you have some days where you just don't want to play at all, which is fine as well. So you don't have these bound times where you don't really want to play, but you kind of have to play. So that's a really big plus for me, at least, since I'm really like mood dependent if I want to play or not. So that really benefits me as a player.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of incentive to do at least 1 key a week, just so you get your weekly chest. But other than that, you're not really forced to do this content. You can only engage in it when you want to do it and are on the mood for it. That's right.
Yes, but I think you should have the motivation to play at least 1 key a week.
Well, there are people out there who don't like to play Mythic Plus, and I think that's fine as well. Yeah, at least for us, who got the attitude towards it, that we wanted to improve our characters to the highest possible item level and gear requirements possible. We feel like we are forced to do it, but I think that's fine. That's not a problem of Mythic Plus. That's just a problem of our attitude, or not a problem at all.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, also it's an entirely different concept than other things in the endgame of Warcraft, I think. There are raids, as we mentioned, but they are dependent on big groups, and you are progressing one boss at a time and learning those mechanics, and just hope that you have one try where 20 people don't fuck up. And then after a few weeks you got it on farm, everyone knows how to do, and you are progressing the next bosses. Then there's PvP, Arena and Battlegrounds, where you have to play against other players and have to do skill checks basically to see who is performing better, which is an interesting thing. But Mythic Plus introduced something that we haven't seen so far. It's you got a whole lot of dungeons. I think we have 10 dungeons in BFA, I'm not even sure.
I think so, yes.
And that makes a whole lot of bosses changing every week with different affixes, and you're doing it in a small group, so you don't have to depend on 19 other people, but only on 4 other people. And I think that's another reason I really enjoy M+, just that it brings something totally different than the other aspects of the game. And it's fairly new. I mean, it just came into the game in Legion. That isn't too far back.
As you were just comparing Mythic Plus to raids, for example, I was about to say that raids might get boring after you re-cleared the raid sometime. Do you think Mythic Plus ever gets really boring in that way? I mean, of course you have affixes to make it appealing, sort of, so you play something different every time, even though it's done. But do you think that it still gets boring after a while?
I wouldn't go as far and say it gets boring, but it definitely gets tedious in some weeks. For example, if there's a week like the last one that we played, Sanguine, and I even forgot what the other affix was. Was it Quaking or something like that? Something annoying, at least. That week, after a few days, really got to me, and I wasn't really in the mood to play more keys, just because it's so taxing on your nerves to play it, and small mistakes can really fuck you up, and that's why that week wasn't my favorite. But I didn't get bored, I just got annoyed. That's a difference, I think. And so in that regard, no, I don't think Mythic Plus gets boring. If there is a lot of time where the seasonal affix isn't fun to play, then maybe it gets boring, like in Season 1 where you had Infested. I think that wasn't really a fun affix to play around. And having
to be fair, if the seasonal affix sucks, it's just pretty much game over.
And it took such a long time for the next affix to come around, so that may have been boring. I'm not sure if I would phrase it that way, but that makes or breaks Mythic Plus. Okay.
I mean, I think you have that with every seasonal affix though, so I think if the season is long enough, everything gets boring in some kind of way.
Yeah, but for example, Reaping was an affix that didn't get boring at all, at least for DPS, I think. Even after the 100th or 200th dungeon with Reaping, I still had fun just AoEing those big pulls away, or thinking of creative ways to pull the Reaping waves onto bosses or stuff like that. I could have played with Reaping a lot longer. That wouldn't have been a problem at all. It was a lot of fun. But
imagine being a spec that has terrible AoE damage. How do you feel if your Outlaw Rogue and your other DPS partner pump 200, 300, up to 1,000,000 DPS, and you sit there and can't do shit?
I guess I would feel like Arcane Mages, for example, feeling right now.
True.
I haven't been in this situation, so I can't say too much about it, but sure, won't feel that great, I'll give you that. But I think that's more a class design issue than it is a class design issue.
Yeah, I think you shouldn't have a seasonal affix that only one sort of spec can deal with. For example, big AoE specs, which was a problem that Reaping had. I think that you should have a seasonal affix that everyone can handle in some sort of way.
Yeah, but I think that's a problem you have with every seasonal affix, or not? Because right now,
I think so too. But
you
I
have
think
the
do something about it.
beguiling emissaries, and they you have the enchanted emissaries where you just put the resto druid in charge to moonfire the emissary away, or to typhoon it, or stuff like that. You have the void emissary where you just need a whole lot of single target damage, or you pull groups of mobs onto them if they're standing alone, and then you have to have priority damage and still AE the other things down. Same with Tides, where you just need to blast her, or have a mage or druid in your group, so he can root, or sheep, the emissary. You had
I think
infested.
beguiling allows for more diversity in your group.
Yeah, more than infested or reaping for sure, but
Yeah.
I think it's still favors
Of course, it's
some
not
classes really hard.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
But at least it's a step in the right direction, in my opinion.
Yeah, it definitely is. Do you have any ideas how you could balance a seasonal affix so that every spec has about the same amount of influence on that affix?
It's a really hard question, to be honest.
Yeah, if I wouldn't be surprised if you don't have an answer. I definitely don't have one, but I thought I could just ask.
Yeah, it's really hard to come up with something right off the spot. I mean, I don't know, really. I like the idea that they had with overflowing, or what it was called. That you have a healing affix, so you have a tank affix and a healing affix. But I mean, as it turns out, you just have normal affixes that turned into role-specific affixes. For example, like the necrotic affix, which is basically a tank affix right now. So, yeah, I don't know.
Let's talk about affixes in general. I think that's an interesting topic. You mentioned overflowing, which doesn't exist in the game anymore, just because it was so unbalanced between the different specs. For example, Resto Druid could just ignore it. Holy Paladins and Holy Priests had a really hard time with it. There are other healing affixes. There are other healing affixes that are really hard to deal with for some specs. For example, Grievous is also something Disc Priests, for example, really suffer from. And there are definitely issues in affix design that need to be addressed soon. Otherwise, people will get frustrated with it. What are some affixes that you really like or dislike, and why?
I mean, as an enhanced shaman, it's fair to say that I hate skittish. It's like, to be honest, I think it's the worst affix for me as an enhancement shaman, since even though we don't have skittish, I pull aggro every second pull with switching targets, that is. So it's just a nightmare to play skittish keys for me personally. But when it comes to other affixes, I think everything that has an impact on my movement, like quaking or sanguine, I dislike that. I really like to be free in my movement and go wherever I want, and don't have to stand in certain places and have less space. So yeah, these are affixes that I really don't like. But on the other hand, which ones do I like? I mean, the easy ones, of course, I like, but that's a different kind of like. I mean, I like them because I can push keys with them, but really like playing them. Let me think about that. Why don't you answer the question while I think about what affix I like?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that you mentioned quaking and skittish, because those are the affixes that I dislike the most as well. yeah, for skittish, it's just that you need to have a rogue or a hunter permanently misdirecting or tricksing you, so you have the chance to hold aggro. And there's no other obvious counterplay against that. You only have that, and if you don't have those classes in your group, you're basically screwed. People have to stop DPS for so long, and I don't really think that's nice affix design. I think it's strong.
Yeah, I think so too. I was a bit distracted, to be honest, by the boss fight right now. So I'm still not sure what affix
Yeah. Another thing that annoys me is quaking, as you mentioned, but at least that's getting changes in 8.3. At the moment, it's just a huge source of damage throughout the entire dungeon. I mean, it's like 3 times a minute and deals 20% of your HP as damage, and it's not avoidable. Even if you don't stack up with anyone else, you still get those 20% max health damage. And I don't think that's healthy. I mean, in lower keys, it's fine, but there are, as soon as you go into higher keys, and for example, you are on the first boss in Freehold, and he pistol shots you, and right after that, the quaking goes off. There's no chance you survive that. You'll just die. And
I mean, it's pretty hard to survive the pistol shot alone if you're a class like an enhanced shaman.
True, but it becomes impossible as soon as quaking comes in. So I think that's bad design, and they've seen this and they're addressing it by changing quaking so that you don't get any damage when you are standing alone. You only start to get damage when you're grouped up, and I think that's a really good change, and that makes the effects a lot better, because the basic idea of watch when you cast spells, because otherwise you'll get silenced, and also don't just stack up to avoid the damage spread around.
What does standing on top of each other mean in that context? I mean, you have the ring around you. Does it mean the rings can't touch each other, or the ring can't touch the other person?
The ring can't touch the other person.
Okay, but the rings can touch.
Yeah, sure. Otherwise, it would be pretty hard to avoid in a dungeon like this, for example.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
No, I won't pull those. We had top left at the start, right? Or no, we had
top right.
Top right. Oh god. Yeah, alright. I'm getting dealt huge amounts of damage. I don't know why.
I think you should walk.
Yeah, I think so too.
Maybe a chance we still got it.
Yeah,
if I can.
It doesn't take too long for me to arrive, but that was pretty hard. Let me see. Melee hits and Shadow Cleave. No, I don't know.
Yeah, the Shadow Cleave is pretty heavy. But we got it without wiping.
Something.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, other affixes that you really like. Have you thought about anything? Because I'm having a hard time too to imagine an affix that I really like to play. I think... yeah, okay.
Oh,
not really.
yeah, I have one. I like teaming. I like big trash packs because I can do a lot of damage.
Okay, that's interesting, because I really hate teaming.
Oh, really?
I really dislike to play teaming, just because I don't have the feeling that Blizzard put too much thought into which packs are teaming. For example, in Freehold, if you have a lot of Harpooneers in those packs during teaming, and they just select a random person and it dies because the harpoons deal so much damage, and if you get targeted by 2 of them, you're dead. That's bad design. Also, like the elementals in Temple in front of the 3rd boss, they deal so much damage, and especially in fortified weeks, they can be really hard to deal with. And I think that's not that good of a design. They should have put more thought into which packs should be teaming, and yeah, that's a problem I have with it. Also, it adds just a lot of time to the timer, because you have to deal so much more damage to get the trash count, if you know what I mean. It just
fair enough.
makes keys harder. It's an interesting idea, but I think it has a lot of problems. I read the idea somewhere that you should replace teaming with reaping, and I thought that was a really nice idea, because it still allows this feeling of big AoE DPS, but it still isn't as obnoxious as teaming is. I don't know if we'll ever see that, actually. But I like it. It's the best of both worlds, if you will. There's a Void Emissary.
Oh, okay. Let's do the small enemies first. And line behind the pillar. Oh, I'm stuck behind here.
That's not good.
Yeah, I figured it out.
Another thing about Mythic Plus, beside the affixes, are the dungeons, of course. There are huge differences between the dungeons, both style-wise and also gameplay-wise. So just tell me, which dungeons do you like to play the most, and why?
I think you will see a pattern in my answers, but I really like Underrot. And if you haven't noticed why, it's because I can do a lot of damage. There are huge AoE pulls that you can do.
There's a lot of emissary damage that's coming in right now.
Yeah, I'm pushing her away. There are a lot of pulls where not really anything happens. That is really dangerous. So you can just pump damage. And most of the time it's just maybe a little bit of kiting. And most of the stuff is just relevant for the tank. Or like you need to have a kick rotation. But that's not too hard. So you can just pump damage. And I really liked it. So Underrot is definitely one of my favorite keys. And Freehold as well, for the same reasons. I also like the boss fights and how they are designed. Yeah. What about you? What are your favorite dungeons?
I think Ital'Dazar is a nice dungeon. I think it looks great. It got a lot of different types of mobs and gameplay mechanics. For example, the small Saurids and their interaction with a lot of different affixes, and the bosses that are hugely different from each other. I really like that. I also like Freehold. I think it's just a fun dungeon with those little events that change the order of the bosses, or the bosses that are active on the second fight. I think that's a really nice thing and interesting thing. But there are also some dungeons that I really dislike. And sadly, that's not because I don't like the theme or something. It's because they are so annoying to play at some points, or for example, just bugging out. That's one thing in Freehold as well. The only real thing I dislike about Freehold is the second boss fight, and the like 50 ways to reset the boss unintentionally by stepping onto a bench or a stone, or the boss charging over an obstacle and then disappearing, or doing the grape shot and jumping out of the fight arena and then disappearing, stuff like that. That's really annoying.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, other things, for example, that really annoy me are Tol'Dagor. Tol'Dagor is, I think, the buggiest dungeon I've ever played, and also just not appealing gameplay-wise. I think
Tol'Dagor is one of the worst dungeons.
The cannon idea is great and all, but it's really repetitive, and when I'm on that walkway there on the outsides and just pulling peg for peg, just waiting for someone to shoot with the cannon, and trying to not stand in the AoEs and stuff like that. That's really annoying. Also, just having all the nameplates of the entire dungeon showing up like half of a dungeon, because you can see them through the walls and through the different levels of a dungeon, just doesn't look great and therefore is annoying. Another thing about Zoltagor are the the bosses the mobs you just pull through walls, or as soon as I use my Typhoon, the mobs fly over the little fence and land somewhere else in the dungeon, bring the entire dungeon with them. Those are things.
It's also pretty FX dependent, I think.
Yeah, but still, I just don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a Toldagor with like Sanguine or something, I mean, the key's just so much harder than if you have easy affixes.
Yeah, true.
In comparison to other keys where Sanguine still sucks, but you have more room to play around it. So I think Toldagor with bad affixes is really punishing in comparison to other keys.
Yeah, it just takes a lot of fun out of playing M+. It just combines the worst things about dungeons and puts it all into the single one.
Yeah, that's true.
Another dungeon I have really mixed feelings about is King's Rest. Basically, I like King's Rest. I think it's interesting and it's fun to play for the most part. But it's just so much harder than other dungeons. For example, the first boss pre-nerf was a disaster. On tyrannical weeks, you couldn't just park the King's Rest because the first boss would just destroy your entire group with his split gold.
I remember that.
Other things were the bleeding debuffs of the berserkers, or the mini boss in the second room with their axe, the axe debuff on the third boss, the fourth boss just destroying you with every single ability. I think it's just super hard, and even when you're not in a tyrannical week, there's Shadow of Zul making your life miserable.
I mean, that got taken care of recently.
Yeah, I'm not sure how long that will stay that way. I think they'll fix that bug soon. But
yeah, hopefully.
At the moment, you have the possibility to skip Shadow of Zul by using a Demon Hunter, jumping over the fence to the last boss and pulling it, and before shrouding that Shadow of Zul, so the boss area gets accessible.
2, 1.
I don't think that will last forever. I'm pretty sure Blizzard will fix this, but if they don't, yes, there's a possibility to play King's Rest on a level as high as other keys, at least on 4 to 5 weeks. On tyrannical weeks, it still isn't possible because the bosses just hit so hard, and I find that really annoying, and I also don't understand it fully, because Blizzard should see those problems as well and should take measure against it. And I mean, it's so since the start of this expansion, and yeah, they took some measures to improve it, but it's still so much harder than other dungeons, and I really don't understand why they don't change anything about that.
To be fair though, it got better since the beginning. I mean, you see King's Rest being timed on key levels like other keys, and not just like you time everything on like 24 and have a 21 King's Rest, like it was in, I think, Season 1.
Yeah, Season 2 as well, I think. Just because you couldn't skip Shadow of Zul, and the bosses were annoying. And hitting too hard.
So maybe in Season 4 they will fix it even more and make it better.
Yeah, let's hope for that. And I'm really interested in the Shadowlands dungeons. Just having entire new playing field to test out affixes, and also just exploring new dungeons is something I'm really excited for. Yeah,
I'm also really hyped for that. And I think while we talked about the changes we would like to see on King's Rest for the future, I'd like to ask you what your personal goals are for maybe the next Mythic Plus season, or even in Shadowlands in Mythic Plus. Like, do you want to reach a certain raid.io score, or do you want to beat like a 25 key, or what's your goals?
I think my goal, okay, we don't have a short, yeah, dev skip. just getting the auger out of the way. Okay. Yeah, my goals. I'm not entirely sure yet. What I know for sure is that I want to play a lot more M+, and that I want to really improve my score. I'm not sure if I'll put a fixed number on it and say, for example, I want to do a 3K score or something like that. I think it will be more likely that I'll think about it as I want to be one of the top 100 Guardian Druids or something like that. Just yeah, being out there and being known for my spec, and really focus on how can I play my spec at its fullest potential in the different keys. For example, Guardian Druids have a lot of problems with magic damage, and that makes dungeons like Shrine of the Storm so much harder with a Guardian Druid than with other tanks. And I want to find ways to time the highest Shrine key of all Guardian Druids or something like that. Just finding ways to really outdo myself with my own spec. I think that's my goal for the next season, for the next add-on, just in general.
That's cool. I really like the attitude that you don't just look at numbers, but you have like a true meaning in the things that you want to achieve. I think that's pretty healthy to do. And
I wouldn't complain about a 3K score or even higher score, but
of course you wouldn't.
That's not my main goal. That's true. What are your goals?
I think it's pretty similar for me. I mean, you know me and my YouTube channel, I just try to get people to know the enhancement spec better and to not think that it's shit just because the community has the picture of the enhancement in mind that it's like bad. So I want to prove them wrong, and that's what I do pretty much since I started playing enhancement, and that's what I will keep doing. According to Raid.io, I got World 3rd Enhancement Shaman in Season 2, so I mean it would be pretty cool to reach this number again or even go higher, which is a bit much said, especially since we play with pucks and don't have a full group, so that makes it really hard. But yeah, I mean, I'll just try to improve as the seasons go on and get better and make great content. And yeah, I mean, the score will come with that. So I just hope the Shadowlands dungeons will be cool, so I have fun playing Mythic Plus. I also feel the hype, especially with Spill the Key and recording keys outside of this video series. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty hyped about the Mythic Plus future and hope that it's a good future.
Yeah, now that I've thought about it, I want to add another goal to the next season or the next expansion, and that's finding people to play regularly with. I mean, I've got you, but we are only 2 people, and I want to have a somewhat stable group to do higher keys with, just because all this pugging really makes it hard to time like a 19 or 20 key.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I mean, we have what it takes to time keys. I mean, we just made a key with commentary in English and we timed it, so I mean...
Yeah. I pat your shoulder, you pat mine. And I think that's where we'll end this video. Thanks for watching. As always, give us some suggestions for topics you want to hear us talking about. Other things you're interested in, or just criticism, what we did well, what we didn't do well, what we could improve on. And again, thanks for watching.
Yeah, thank you guys, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.